Hey, I'm Andy Slade.
I'm Bryan Lewis. We're with PrecisionRifle101.com.
We're here today to talk to you about field shooting positions. Many times in matches, you'll have a match director that throws in some type of prop that you have to shoot over, but you can't rest your rifle on it. So whether that's a tripod or a backpack rest or anything like that, there's a few fundamental things that are going to help you be able to shoot off of those types of props. So what we have here is Bryan has his rifle set up on a tripod. He has a pack for rear support, and he's going to go into a little bit about what he thinks about and how he works this prop, and we'll get right into it. After that, I'll get into some other things.
So you can see I've got the tripod set up kind of low, legs are kind of splayed out. This is a really good seated position. Tripods are good for a lot of different heights, whether it be seated, kneeling, standing, it doesn't matter. But for this instance, we're going to show you some seated, and then a little bit later I'm going to show you some standing. So here I've got it again low, legs splayed pretty wide. I've got a pack under the back of the rifle. Just like any other time, you want to really key in on natural point of aim. So my shoulders are square to the target. The rifle's already pointed on target. Again, you want to, we mention this a lot, and I'll mention it here too, eyes muzzle target. So when I'm getting ready, I want to kind of make sure my rifle eyes muzzle target pointed at the target, come to the scope and acquire the target, and I'm already there. It's that easy and that fast. It just takes practice with that pointing of the rifle the direction you want to shoot. So again, natural point of aim. Another thing I want to key in on is level. I've got my level here in the back of the MPA chassis. I want to make sure that's centered up and level. Parallax is set, dope is dialed. You see I've kind of got my legs wrapped around my pack here, ankles crossed. It gives me knees here, pockets in my knees for my elbows. I can kind of hug the pack with my left hand like I would a rear bag in the prone position or a modified prone position, and obviously my trigger hand here. So we're going to go ahead and run the bolt and engage a target we've got out here at 423 yards, and I'll show you a couple of rounds here.
Impact. Impact.
Nice. So with this position, we like to kind of address the rifle in a manner where you're not putting a lot of shoulder into the rifle, but you're also not free recoil in the rifle either. Here, when you've got 2 points of support, you can kind of put a little bit of pressure there, just like you would shooting prone off of a bipod, and that helps you kind of absorb recoil a little bit. But I'm not really muscling the gun. I'm not putting a ton of pressure into the gun. So again, just a couple of shots, giving you a really good example of how to shoot off of a tripod seated, just to get over that obstacle, whether it be a log in front of you, broom straw that's 2 feet tall, or what have you, whatever you're trying to get over in that field shooting position. So I'm going to hop out of the frame and let Andy come in. He's going to shoot off of a pack and give you some pointers on that.
All right, so this is more of a worst case scenario. You don't have a tripod, you're just getting into the sport, and you're maybe uncomfortable with asking somebody to borrow the gear, whatever it may be. We have a pack, it's got a frame in it, so it's not going to collapse when we set the rifle on it, and the target's not terribly far away. It's 423 yards. So what I can do is basically just use this like it was a barricade. So again, like Bryan was saying, I'm not going to muscle the gun. I'm going to get my natural point of aim, eyes muzzle target, straight to the target, and just make sure I'm using good fundamentals, good trigger control and follow through. We'll see how this goes.
Impact!
All right, so again, it's not going to be as stable as like what Bryan was showing you earlier, but it does give you the option. It's something you've already got on your person, and if it's a last ditch effort, then hey, use those fundamentals, use the gear you've got, practice with it, and it'll allow you to get some hits that you might not have got otherwise. All right, now Bryan's going to show you another position off of the tripod.
So we showed you sitting just a second ago. Obviously, tripods are, like I said, used for lots of different things, or can be used for lots of different things, lots of different heights. So here we've got a standing position. Whether you're, again, shooting a match and need to shoot it standing, or you're in a hunting situation. I use a tripod to hunt a lot, do a lot of predator hunting. So again, here, one key thing, a lot of people ask about different heights of the tripod. Some of that's personal preference. Me personally, I like to kind of have that point where the rifle mounts is roughly center of my chest. It gives me a good height, so when I'm on the gun, I kind of get my legs spread wide. Rifle's already ready for a shoulder pocket. I kind of lean into it just a little bit, but I'm not really, again, not muscling the gun like we talked about earlier. You want to have just enough shoulder in it to help absorb that recoil, but not necessarily so much off the gun that you're literally free recoiling the rifle with nothing. So we'll go ahead and get on target, and we're going to send a couple at this 423 yard target. Again, I'm going to check my level, make sure I'm level, crank my knob down, just enough shoulder in it. Impact.
One thing that I see a lot, if you'll go ahead and mount the rifle again, Bryan.
Yes, sir.
One thing I see a lot is a guy will get on this tripod like this, and you'll see him tense these shoulders up. If you start doing that, yeah, you'll see that right before they get ready to shoot. They'll bring that shoulder up and anticipate that recoil. The problem with that is you're inducing that muscle tension, and it's going to make you have a really higher chance of getting that wobble area that's getting, you know, the reticle off of the target.
Yeah, that's what we talk about when we talk about addressing that rifle with just enough pressure to where you're not inducing that wobble. To Andy's point, that's one thing that we see a ton of, and if you're shrugging those shoulders, some of that may be due to the height not being right. So if you get that height again to where, like I said, that mount point center of your chest, I can kind of relax right down into the gun, and it's perfect. I don't have to shrug my shoulders to get to the rifle. If I've got it a little higher, then sometimes that's why you see people shrug those shoulders, because they're trying to get that extra couple of inches out of the height to where they get to the gun. So maybe drop the height of the tripod, or drop the height of whatever you're shooting off of, and that gives it that just nice natural feel to where you can just relax into the rifle.
Bryan, do you mind if I get behind it real
Not
quick?
at all, go for it.
So one other thing that I see a lot is it's when guys, they're not really used to shooting standing, and you'll see them come up and they're more like this. So you can see my shoulders are blade, and this rifle I don't have anything behind it. Whereas here, my body's behind the rifle to absorb that recoil. I'm going to be able to spot my own impacts. When I'm standing sideways like this, there's nothing behind this buttstock now, so I'm not able to absorb the recoil. Another thing that I see a lot is when shooters are in the standing position, whether it be on a tripod or barricade or anything, I see this a lot. And the problem with this is we don't stand here in a conversation like this because it's not comfortable. We have that muscle tension. Well, why would you shoot like that? So what we're looking for is bone support. All right, so with that bone support is when we're standing here in a comfortable position without any muscle tension, and then I'm just going to mold myself into the rifle. So if I need to raise my body position, I'll just bring my feet together. If I need to lower my body position, I'll spread my feet apart, still using that eyes muzzle target, getting behind the rifle, anchor point, looking over top of the turret, coming down, and I'm right on that target. So I think that's some pretty key fundamental things about shooting off of the standing here.
For sure. There's a lot of people that struggle a lot with that, and a lot of the reasons Andy just mentioned are really key points you guys really should key in on. That whole not blading those shoulders and getting a wide base with solid bone support is very important.
I think so too, and the other thing I think is we see that the rifle will always want to return to its natural point of aim. So if I'm not in my natural point of aim for the rifle, it's not going to want to recoil straight into my body. It's going to want to return to its natural point of aim. So when you're shooting, if you see that reticle jump off the target to the right or to the left, you can pretty much bet you're not straight behind that rifle.
There's another thing too, just to point out, you notice the orientation of the tripod. This is The way I like to shoot with one leg straight under the barrel of the gun, the other two towards the rear. One thing that does do is if it does recoil back and you don't have quite enough shoulder in the gun, it's going to come back on those two, but it's going to settle back again pretty much in that same point. You can imagine if the tripod was turned and you only had one leg in the back, then it's going to recoil and it could kind of come back off target one side or the other. So me personally, I prefer to shoot again with one leg centered up front to where the gun comes straight back and always settles back in the same spot.
Right on. One other thing that we can talk about real quick is weight on the rifle. So if the rifle, Bryan has, his rifle is really well balanced. So even when this is loose, you'll see that the rifle wants to just sit there. It's not falling to one side or the other. Bryan's gonna fuss at me because I messed with his tension knob. But what we can do is if the rifle's front heavy, we can just relax our arm on the back of the scope here on the mount. If it's rear heavy, we can relax our arm on the front near the ball head. So what that'll do is allow us to weight the rifle to counteract the imbalance in your rifle if you happen to have that going on.
For sure.
Another thing you'll see is guys will shoot with their hand on the tripod. One note I'll mention about that is if you're going to shoot with your hand on your tripod, think about turning that hand over so that you can relax, and now you've got bone support and you're not having to hold your body up. It'll naturally hold that body up to where with that bone support right there, with the wrist turned upside down, the joint doesn't move in that direction, so you can just relax right there. There's no other tension there.
Yep, all good points. Well guys, I hope you got a lot out of this. You got any other thing to add on?
I think that's it.
Right on. Well, once again, I'm Bryan Lewis.
I'm Andy Slade.
We're with PrecisionRifle101.com, and we hope this helps you guys out a lot with some different field shooting positions.
If you have any questions, you're welcome to send us an email at info@precisionrifle.com, or you're welcome to put it in the comments below.